Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by CoolSomething.com, mana traders, as well as Twitch subs and Patreon supporters just like you. My name is Evan Irwin, and get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, PowrDragn.
What's up, everybody? You probably want to grab your favorite tea, beverage, whatever, because we might be here for a minute. There's a lot to talk about this week.
After a couple weeks of, man, it's a slow news week, we have the news now. We do. Reuben Bressler.
We took a deep breath before the plunge, and now that the Worlds and the Magic Con have gone past, we've got a lot.
It was a whole bunch, and it's one of those things where we were like, oh yeah, and Worlds, and the World Championship also happened. That's a whole thing. Now, if you missed our pre-show, which also had the one and only Aaron Campbell, patrons get access to our extended version right after the show, and we kick it off with our first pick and our promo code reminder. Go to CoolStuffInc.com. Use the promo code MagicMics. Do it! And save 5% off anything in there. Singles, sealed supplies, whatever you want. Get 5% off by using the promo code MagicMics. And support your favorite streamer with your suggestions at the end of the show to see who we raid tonight on Twitch. Thanks to CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day. Highly recommend it. Let's check out our preview event roundup. There were so many things. It's kind of hard to figure out where to begin, but I would note the way that I would start is that there was a large kind of, there's a presentation that they had, right? And it went through a variety of kind of, here's how Foundations is going to enter the format. Here's how the types of products it's going to be. Here's, of course, lots and lots of previews, which was fine. But it also noted things like MSRP is coming back for many products. And honestly, I don't really know why. They just kind of left it there.
My thing is, it's a weird thing to even put out there because it doesn't mean anything.
Right. And
players going, oh, well, now people won't overcharge it. No, that has nothing to do with anything. We had it before, and guess what? We took it away. Things were exactly the same.
The market sets the price, right?
Ain't nothing going to change.
Now, one of the most controversial moments of the announcements was expanding legality for Universes Beyond. All Universes Beyond sets are going to be legal in all formats, beginning with new sets in 2025. So all of the Marvel stuff is going into standard. All the Final Fantasy stuff is going into standard. And I think I can understand, a few reasons for that. Obviously, I think it's a little confusing if someone were to come in via Fallout or Warhammer or whatever and be like, wait, my decks can't, these cards can't be played anywhere, that I want to play. And the other half is they can also kind of just power them down a little bit to standard level, and they have a good idea where that standard level power level is, and you can just kind of play in those worlds around that versus well, it's not standard legal, so we could juice it a little bit, and suddenly now Modern has cards to worry about.
Yeah. No, for me, it was more kind of when I thought back to Lord of the Rings, right? If we use that as an example, set sold well, everybody bought it, we loved it. But realistically, only I don't know, a handful of cards, maybe two handfuls actually see any play because they're only Modern legal, really.
But they saw play all right.
Yeah, but I'm saying the upper end, absolutely, right? But the rest of the set, 95% of the set doesn't get played with at all. I mean, get played within Commander, but I'm talking about 60-card formats.
Right.
Right, so there's some of those food cards, as an example, that if those were standard legal, we probably could have built around those and did some fun stuff that would have been useful and competitive, and you could have seen more of those cards get played with. So if somebody started playing because of Lord of the Rings, they might have been interested in standard if they could play their Pippin food deck or whatever, right? But that was never going to happen when they're only available for older formats.
Isn't it still available for Alchemy? Is it still legal for Alchemy? Am I wrong about that?
I have no clue. Alchemy actually did a rotation, so I have no idea. And standard did.
Oh, right. And Alchemy rotates faster, so my God.
Which is further weird. I don't know why we need to just stop that project, but that's a different conversation.
Right. Now, one of the things they noted was in 2025, they're going to do half in-world, in-lore Magic sets, and then half Universes Beyond set, including a Universes Beyond set at the end of the year that replaced what was going to be Return to Lore one. And so that rubbed a lot of people away, and good, bad, and ugly, along with announcing some things like a secret lair for SpongeBob SquarePants for next year. And Mania was just like, this is the line. We've gone to the precipice. We're down the slippery slope. And I'm like, I think we might have been down that slope about 5 years ago,
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to know when the frog gets boiled, There's a bunch of people that left 15 years ago. There's a bunch that left 5, and there's a bunch that'll leave now. It just depends on where your line is. It's just one straw. I'm sure the camel's fine.
I mean, again, it's a secret layer. It's going to be 5 to 15 cards if they break it up or not. Like, so what? It's just reprints with different art.
Right. So let's go a little bit further. Right. Let's say they were going to do a whole set of SpongeBob. What happens?
Nothing.
What happens? You know what I'm saying? I'm serious. Like, is this the end of Magic? Are we done now? Like, is that product automatically going to be terrible? I would say literally the opposite. You now have all of these people who've grown up with SpongeBob. You have a gigantic IP everybody's familiar with. You would definitely want to know what the characters in that world look like in a Magic-like setting, because of that secret layer. Even if they do a couple of them, you're barely going to cover some of the characters or the plots or the locations that the show has to offer.
That's fair. I mean, every other one we've done, we keep seeing new faces, and they're coming in because of it. So can't see that stopping. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if the fall set, or I guess the winter set, I guess it is now, that we see listed on the calendar that got replaced might be another Commander base Ultimate or whatever, Universes Beyond. Because that seems to be the pattern we've been following for a minute.
They said there's going to be a Universes Beyond. They just haven't said what IP.
Yeah, I'm just saying, it felt like it was going to possibly a Commander set. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear that announced while being in, like, because for a couple of years we put the Warhammer set there, we put the Doctor Who set there. We're not doing it this year because we have Foundations and whatever in the way. Sure. So like, I'm wondering if that's what they're going to go back to next year, just kind of keep that pattern.
I don't. Yeah, this is going to be a standard set, so I don't think so. But obviously,
fair.
I mean, if your goal is to make the most money, then this is a good decision. If you're, number go up, who's got the chips? I call me un-American. I'm of the opinion that more money does not equal better. Necessarily. Could
more money equals more problems. They wrote a whole song about that.
That's true. Yep. More money equals more problems, and the person who wrote that has more problems. Anyway, it's a tough situation because you like seeing the game that you play be successful, but you don't like seeing. It's like when when people were like fans of a band that got big, it was like no. That's my band. I don't want them to get popular. That's the band I like. Right. If they get popular, then they leave the concert venue that I see them at. It's like if you were a fan of Green Day when they were playing 40-person venues, and then they started playing 1,000, 10,000-person venues, 100,000-person venues, you're gonna miss those other days. And
dude, I witnessed that with Typo Negative. I think it was. They were playing out of like Houston, I think, or something for a while, at this little bitty spot, and I was just like, oh, these guys sound kind of cool. And then I saw them on MTV a couple of years later, and people are like, oh, they're just sellouts now, or whatever. I'm like, what do you want them to keep doing? Just playing dive bars? Like,
right?
What?
No, success is the goal, and I'm happy when people or things that I'm a fan of become more successful, make more money, when their line goes up, when they can sustain themselves and live in this economy more stably and more successfully. I'm still wistful of the day when we could just have our 3 sets in Lorwyn, or 4 sets in Lorwyn, or our 3 sets in Ulgrotha, and we could just like that. We could just like our thing instead of becoming Fortnite. Fortnite makes a ton of money, and that's cool. I'm excited for the artists to get to make more art. I'm excited for the designers to expand and get to stretch their muscles and work with more IPs and get a more influx of money. There's a lot to like about this decision. There is still a lot to be sad about this decision too.
You know what I just thought about? Like, future Magic Cons could be wild. Like, seriously, like next year we could have like Jim Lee in a booth.
Sure.
Like, I'm just saying, like, you know what I mean? Like, because we're doing.
Let's get Jim Zub in there also.
I mean, we could have some crazy stuff going down.
Can we get Rob Liefeld? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like, Todd McFarlane's. Like, that'd be sick.
Why not?
That would be insane. I would love that.
Because you're gonna be bringing all the comic book fans in. Like, why not get a 25,000 entry event?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I mean, bring in some comic book retailers, you know what I'm saying? Like, we widen the net,
I think that's a good comparison. Did you guys ever go to, what's the earliest you ever went to Comic-Con?
Oh man, I went to Comic-Con like once, and even then,
Yeah,
I
mine
didn't
was a
spend
while
lot of time in
back.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
Probably
There
like
was a time before
15
it
to
was
18
hugely
years ago.
corporate. And
Right.
it was a comic book convention. And then Hall H became what it is, and then it became the big corporate thing. And it's still very cool. It's still very exciting, but it's different. It just is different.
Sure.
And so
It'll
that's what
definitely be
this is.
different.
The Foundation era is just different.
It's gonna hit different, as they say. Now let's move on here. Next year's going to kick off on Valentine's Day with Aether Drift. This is going to be the Death Race set, a high-speed, high-stakes death race across 3 planes that brings fans a mixture of fresh new ways to explore magic and yada yada yada. So let's go. I want cars. I want modifications to cars. I want to put a spoiler. I want Snape kills Dumbledore on my vehicle.
There will be no official previews for Aether Drift. There will only be spoilers.
Listen, Wizards. He's writing it. It's right there.
Yep.
It's right there.
Yep.
I love it. Wacky Racers.
Don't announce any. Don't announce who's getting official previews. Only send them via private message, and only have them get spoiled just like at random.
Yep.
I mean,
that would be hilarious.
This Hot Wheels-esque looking sort of race set seems incredible. Very excited about that. There's 10.
I love the death machines from Avernus when the Avernus D&D set came out. The fast Dodeca Illogy is closing soon. Maybe we can get a Fast and the Furious crossover Secret Lair at some point.
Micro Machines crossover. Let's do it.
I'm okay with that.
Let's get some like Optimus Prime reprints in the mix. We can do some cool stuff.
I mean,
Mad Max, perfect.
Mad Max Goblins, 10 2-colored aligned teams is kind of how they're selling it, and I'm cool with that. That sounds great. You know? And the Mad Max Goblins. You had me at Mad Max Goblins. Like I'm good with that. That sounds amazing. I love it. Very excited about that,
dude. And I get it. It's not your traditional magic theme, whatever. But like, look how fun this art is.
Yeah.
Like seriously, like all weekend, every time they showed something from the set, I'm like, okay, that.
It's
Even
great.
if you don't know what it is, you're kind of like, man, what is that? I kind of want to know what we're doing.
Right? This is the kind of shift I like, which is more modern tropes and more updated in universe, but more modern and technological advancements like we had with Duskmourn. This is another step in that direction, which I absolutely love.
Look, that set symbol is absolute perfection.
Aces.
The checker flag set symbol is just I can't imagine a better set symbol.
The problem is I think the only like gold, silver, whatever part is going to be the actual pole and not the checkered part of the flag.
Oh,
so it's going to be a little.
No, it looks like it's silver.
No,
it looks like the checkers are silver.
Okay, because I thought it was just the pole.
No, it's silver throughout, I think. And
okay, well that's good then. That helps.
That's exciting. But you'll see it here on the next rare, the Duretti.
Fantastic.
It's all gold. Yeah, so
that works.
The checkerboard flag or the checker flag is just incredible. Really cool stuff. Obviously, they showed off a vehicle and Duretti that of course cares about artifacts and things. A 2-color Gear Hulk, bright glass Gear Hulk. Very exciting.
Multicolored Gear Hulks is very exciting.
And that thing's kind of a boss.
Yeah, that thing's great.
It is. For those who are listening, it's 2 white, 2 green for a 4/4 mythic artifact creature construct with first strike and trample. So 4 mana 4/4 first strike trampler. When it enters, you may search your library for up to 2 artifact, creature, and or enchantment cards with mana value 1 or less. Reveal them, put them into your hand, and then shuffle. So go get your pithy needles and whatnot. Go get your answers. Go get your small little creatures and or, your little bullets to go get people with.
You can go get your Chain to the Rocks. You can go get your, whatever you need. Yeah, this is a Bright Glass Gear Hulk, which is the green, white.
Yep.
I love it.
Crazy ability. Fetches an Urza Saga. That's very good.
Yep. First strike and trample. That's an interesting set of words to go together.
Yeah.
Very nice. I love it. So, very, very cool. Now, they follow Aether Drift with the return to Tarkir Dragonstorm. Let's go.
Great name.
Love the name. Happy with that. We'll have lots and lots of dragons. They wanted to continue fleshing out the 3-color clans. They worked with cultural consultants for each clan, so they have more depth to dive into, which is very neat. The artwork is just epic and awesome. I love all things Jeskai. Like, I just can't get enough of it.
That piece of artwork is crazy, by the way. With like the
with
character
the 3 arms.
Yeah, the 3 extra firearms, phantom arms behind her.
Yeah.
And then
I love Tarkir. Tarkir was a set that I was not immediately sold on when it first came out, and like the theming of it when it first came out. But as it came through, and we got cons and then dragons and Fate Reforged, it definitely grew on me, and it has definitely aged well. Cons of Tarkir is one of the most favorably looked back upon draft formats of all time. People absolutely love the flavor, people love the characters, people love the lore of this set. And I'm excited that we're getting another Tarkir visit. And it's another one that could be the next, Ravnica. It could be the next Zendikar of like, yeah, we could just revisit this every 5 years or so.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point we have the dragon plane, right? And dragons are dragons, and we literally have a PowrDragn right there. But like, we don't, I think, interestingly, just saying this out loud, we don't really have an angel plane, right?
Sure.
Like we have like Sarah's stuff, but that was Sarah's stuff.
I've got bad news about what the angel plane is.
Well, it collapsed or whatever in the story, but like we can have a new one, right? Like,
sure.
Yeah, New Capenna is kind of where they hang out.
New Capenna is the angel plane that they built Brooklyn on top of.
But then they got rid of all of them or whatever, and then they like broke
But we can flash back in time to old Capenna.
I mean, because that's what we do with Tarkir. I mean, the story happens in different eras.
Yeah.
Even this one obviously is placed somewhere weird because Ugin's free. So,
Yeah, Ugin's still here somewhere. Sarkin's still here somewhere.
Yeah.
Very rad. They had a video where they showcase some Final Fantasy stuff. This is just, and I spoke about it a little bit last week in that we already see an unbelievable, like we see 1.5 times the supplies of a normal Magic release coming from just Ultra Pro. And hey, there's a cat.
Hey,
hey, Reese. But yeah, so Final Fantasy is just bukus, and it's going to be insane. And the fact that they are trying to do their best to capitalize on the Japanese market is just also going to be even that much better. Like, this is going to be a home run, I think, almost in spite of itself.
It's going to be hard. Like, I mean, it could rival Marvel's sales on the year.
It really
legitimately. Yeah, and that sounds crazy, but I mean, the market in Japan is huge for Final Fantasy, so there's no telling what that set can do. And they're apparently putting
this cat.
Yeah, they're putting the full press on it, so it's going to have the best shot possible to max out its sales.
Yeah, for sure. Final Fantasy, I think, is probably going to, Marvel's probably more popular in the United States. Final Fantasy will catch up to it overseas, and they'll probably be equivalent overall. Both of them are just going to be absolute home runs, and for different markets, which I think is also important that you're sort of spreading the love in that way too. So that's a very exciting business plan, a very exciting model that they're exploring. I'm excited that there is a mixture of the two. I like that we get our own, and then we also mix it with Universes Beyond. I'm hopeful that that is what we're going to get going forward with the Universes Beyond announcement.
Also, I will say, thinking about it now, that's probably the reason we're getting so much stuff in Foundations, to make sure there's always enough of that around for, because it's a lot of cards. It's like almost 400 cards or whatever, right? So making sure no matter what, there's always enough of that available in Standard, especially while you have all this other stuff coming out. So like you don't lose sight of that. You always see something that's Magic-centric, traditional Magic-centric, I should say, that's always available. Because that's, now that I'm thinking about it, kind of makes sense. If this was the plan, because they know the plans before we do. Right. So like it makes sense that this could have been the plan the whole time.
Oh, this cat is desperate to be a part of the show tonight.
I see that.
Yeah, she's all about it. But yeah, so we have like Sephiroth here, being badass, and all things Final Fantasy are exciting.
It's a cool piece.
We had talked about like, will it be tough to cover all of those games, 16 different Final Fantasies, but we covered 30 years with Doctor Who, and that went off pretty well. So I'll take it. Now their fall set that goes further than we've ever gone before, the Edge of Eternities. This is the Science Cosmos set.
I like that.
Space themed science fantasy?
Space science fantasy, like Isaac Asimov kind of stuff, maybe some Douglas Adams kind of stuff.
Dune,
we get maybe we get some Spelljammer elements in there.
Can we do some weird Terry Pratchett stuff with like worlds held up by turtles? And,
for sure. Terry Pratchett in there. I think that this is, and we go meet the Eldrazi where they live, right? We go probably go see where the Eldrazi come from kind of stuff. But I'm very excited for that. That's the kind of lore and world building that fascinates me.
And hell yeah, Tezzeret shows up looking like a total BA. Like, notice what we're seeing in this. There's a black hole, actual spaceships.
Yep.
Like, you want to talk about vehicles that are spaceships? Spaceships.
If there's
Let's
a
get
chance,
a Cosmo reprint.
if there's a chance for us to get Star Trek Secret Lair to test the market,
Oh God, please.
I'm just saying, like, you
Yeah.
can you can put a few different things out there. Maybe some Star Wars was if you could land that license, and then
That's
just
right.
see how people
Star Wars
respond.
or Star Trek. I'll
Yep.
take whatever.
I'm
Babylon,
just saying.
whatever you want to do.
I don't think Star Wars is going to happen for a good long while because of fantasy flights and
Sure.
And so, but I think Star Trek would be absolutely insane, and I would love it. I just honestly, I don't want them to like do it without, sort of like having a full send. Like, don't just give me a secret layer. Let's do the full set. Let's do 3.
Oh no,
full
I'm just
sets.
saying you could do a Secret Lair tied to this Edge of Eternity set with Star Trek.
Sure.
Then maybe next year announce, hey, our winter set or whatever is going to be Star Trek, blah, 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 whatever.
Right.
I would love it. Now, do note that next year, as they revealed, Marvel Spider-Man is going to be the first Marvel set. That is very exciting and cool. And yeah, they just talked about here's 2025 up on the screen. If you're watching, if you're not, it shows you Age of Drift, Tarkir, Dragonstorm, Final Fantasy in June, Edge of Eternities in August, Spider-Man to be announced, and then the last one at the end of the year is the Universes Beyond something or other. Honestly, I would not be surprised if it's just the next Marvel set, like,
right.
You know what I mean? Spider-Man
Could
into
be.
whatever,
Yeah.
into Iron Man or
Into
something.
X-Men or something.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if it necessarily needs to be anything different. They've already talked about having multiple Marvel sets. So that was a little
And then they pushed Lorwyn into the next year, looks like.
That they did.
Yeah, I do think it's a little weird that they just didn't give us the name of it. And that feels like there's still some contract negotiation going on, possibly, which is why we don't know about it yet. Because otherwise, like, why wouldn't you tell us? Unless there's a crazy marketing thing attached to it, and maybe it's a major product or something.
Right.
Yeah, there was a hiccup there for a minute for a few years in that there was Universes Beyond stuff that had been like contracts had been worked out, but it was during the pandemic, so a lot of the things in it didn't have like real world event stuff included, and so there were Universes Beyond stuff that couldn't really be promoted in a way that you would kind of want to, if you were holding an event and wanted to have them be a part of it at the time. So hopefully they got all that stuff worked out. Moving up here into Arena, Pioneer Masters is coming December 10th, where they showcase Hidden Strings, one of those cards where we're just like, could you just please, God, we just need like 24 cards to basically make the format of Pioneer entirely. And this basically gives all of that and then some.
Yeah, this is just one of those, like, about time, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I feel like I should be excited, but more of it's just like, yeah, okay, finally. Like, that's sort of how I feel about it.
Right. So, yeah.
I love that the advertisement for Pioneer Masters is Hidden Strings. It makes me it's such a funny thing that if you had shown me that ad when Hidden Strings came out, I'd be like, they're using what card to promote what?
Yeah, exactly.
From Dragon's Maze? Like,
yeah. That's
but
like
if you're a fan of the format, like, you know what the card is.
Exactly.
Right. But when the card came out, Pioneer didn't exist, and Hidden Strings was absolute garbage.
Yeah, Hidden Strings was really bad. Like most of the rest of that set. But Jace Vryn's Prodigy is another one that's coming as a mythic. That's very exciting. As 394 cards, man. The Arena team has been on it. Yeah. They got to do a Jumpstart set. They got to do the whole Foundation set and the starter like collector thing they're doing that adds another 380 something cards. Like, whew. It is long work hours for the Arena team, I can imagine.
Yep. Right now. People are wondering why they talked about before trying to outsource some of the development. Like, they knew what was coming down the pipe.
And also why there isn't an early access event.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate. So, so here's some cool these Japanese showcase cards from Foundations. We're getting to Foundations here in a second. And they said some of that stuff. And Innistrad Remastered is showing up January 24th, 2025. Honestly, I've been waiting for a long time for information about this set, so we finally got some, which was nice. And Edgar Markov is a part of the set, which that's good because that card is insanely expensive. And there's also going to be 500 really super snazzy versions that are serialized with custom artwork just for the serialized version. And I think that's pretty awesome, honestly.
I mean, the inserts are cool, but how many people are going to want to buy Innistrad Remastered?
Right.
Like, that's literally, I'm not even just trying to be just like negative Ned over here, but like,
well, first of all, they have already shown they're going to reprint the most expensive card in the block, in the world, because they didn't do that with Ravnica. And
agreed.
That pissed off a whole bunch of people. Why did you not put Doubling Season? Even if Doubling Season was coming in Foundations, you did not put it in Ravnica Remastered, and it hurt the value of the set. Like, it just did.
But how much chase? Maybe I'm not thinking about how much good chase material is there to reprint.
Right. There's not a ton.
Innistrad?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
There's a chunk.
So there's I don't know how much Craterhoof is worth anymore. Avacyn exists. Gristlebrand. I think they've reprinted into the ground enough.
Parallel Lives is over $30.
Oh, Parallel Lives.
Sure, that's true. We can reprint that. Even though it's been printed a couple times.
Snapcaster, Bloodline Keeper.
Bloodline Keeper, sure.
Balefire Dragon.
Because you also have the other issue of it's basically going to fall between Aether Drift and Final Fantasy.
No.
Sure.
It's the first set of the year. It comes out.
Is it the first one? Oh, in January.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay, so we'll be itching for some actual Magic lore stuff by then.
Maybe. I mean, we're also going to be under 700 Foundations cards.
That's true.
It's going to be a lot. And, other things, let's see, dang it, what was Eldritch Moon? EMN? Is that was the set code for that? Yeah. I mean, Emrakul,
you can always put Eldrazi in there, right?
Emrakul's $56.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can always put Eldrazi, so that makes sense.
Yes.
You can at least have really big mythic chases, I guess.
It is hilarious that Tree of Perdition is now $20. And that was a garbage crap mythic that everyone crapped at the time. Was like, what are you doing?
Which we previewed right here on Magic Mike's.
Yeah, we did it.
But that is a card. That's a good example. Once it gets reprinted, that's a value that's probably getting chopped down by 70%.
Sure.
On that type of card.
Yeah, so these are like, the Edgar Markov serialized thing is what they describe as headliners. They focused on combining all aspects to make that card feel super special, produce some really incredible treatments. Headliners are slated to appear in future sets. Here's the first look at the headliner for Aether Drift, which is a legendary artifact planeswalker dash equipment called the Aether Spark. This is what everyone in the death race is trying to get. This is the ultimate prize.
I love whatever's happening.
Yep.
It's a lot. It's a whole bunch.
It's literally one of those things like, I know nothing, doesn't make any sense, but I'm good with it.
Yep.
Oh, I'm very excited.
It's a very exciting type line.
Thank you, Arshu. Our custom magic is leaking. I'm sorry. We're too many custom magic cards possible there.
Yeah.
The Secret Lair stuff is obviously going to be cool, and there's lots of that. And here, of course, is the Secret Lair SpongeBob SquarePants coming in 2025. Everything's on fire. Like, at least half was everyone's going, like, losing their minds excited, and then half were just like, this cannot be. You are ruining all things.
I mean, it's fine.
It started multiple threads of many community members who were just like, whoa, we're doing half the sets now, and we're going all the way to SpongeBob. And I'm like, man, we got so much further to go. We've already done My Little Pony. Like,
yeah.
Was that really something different?
Transformers, Jurassic Park, Walking Dead.
I didn't see the straw man that you were arguing with, but I think that if
straw man.
If SpongeBob is your line in the sand, then more power to you. I think it is hilarious and wacky, but I do like that it is a secret lair. I mean, popular IPs as secret lair is fun. I think that's great.
100%.
Now, one of the things
I don't need an entire SpongeBob set.
Now, one of the things we did not actually mention was one of the things they mentioned at first, which is standard rotation is now going to happen at the beginning of the year, not when the fall set comes out.
Great change.
Year rolls over, which
makes much more sense.
Dude, I've been asking for that for 15 years.
Yeah.
Mostly because as you teach new players, it's like it's so much easier to say like January 1st, everything changes. You know what I mean? As opposed to like there's this like imaginary date that happens sometime either in mid-September to mid-October whenever a set releases. Like there's no real pattern to it. It's like, and then this year it was even more awkward because I think the set released in like August, I think it was, with Bloomberg or whatever. So like that changed that. So yeah, just January, beginning of the year. We're good.
Whew. All right. So that was a whole presentation about what's coming up, names of the sets, Universal's Beyond, and how that impacts things. And moving on from that, and we're going to move on from our first pick to gather the townsfolk, talk about community issues, thanks to our sponsor, Mana Traders, the best tool to enhance your Magic Online experience. Use the code MagicMikes_IQJ. That's MagicMikes_IQJ for 10% off your next subscription with Mana Traders, and we appreciate them sponsoring the show. So we're going to move on here to some Foundations Roundup, some talk of the things and the stuff. We have lots of... Well, they did bring back Dark Confidant, but not for the set proper, just for the extra stuff. They did bring back Solemn Simulacrum. You called that one PowrDragn. That was, I think, an easy slam dunk.
Yeah, that was an easy one. Like, I could take credit for it, but it wasn't like we had to stretch to figure that one out.
Yeah. So I don't think, and I agree with Reuben, we don't think we need to do the 3 individual cards, but I'm just going to let's do 1 individual card. Let's see.
Okay.
Pick your favorite of the 3 cards that we were going to talk about, because we've already kind of gone on a little bit with this show. So I'll go ahead and bring up my favorite of the 3. And this card, I think, is just purposefully, legitimately weird. And that's what I love about it. And that's Sire of 7 Deaths. This is, as I understand it, the only Eldrazi in the set. It is, and I could be wrong, it is a 7 generic mana, mythic 7/7 creature Eldrazi with first strike, vigilance, menace, trample, reach, lifelink, ward of pay 7 life. There are 7s all over this thing. 7 hands, 7 heads, the word 7. There's 14 words /7 times 2 for the flavor text. There's 7 different, 7 words for the abilities. Like, it goes on with all the 7s. And yes, it looks weird, and they put weird line, breaks where they kind of wouldn't normally, and that's because the Eldrazi are weird, and that's what I love about this thing.
Yeah, I like it.
This is why I need more universes beyond stuff, because I hate Eldrazi. I hate everything about it.
Well, the Eldrazi are 4th world breaking people anyway. They're going to break into those beyond universes.
But it is a really cool card. I mean, 7 mana for just, throw the dartboard, pick 7 abilities.
The variant with the everything variant on its own line is incredible.
Because it's 7 lines, dude. It's 7 lines. Oh my god, I love it so much. Oh my god, it's so cool.
It's a crazy card. And I expect it's going to be pricey, especially since so many people got their recent Eldrazi commander decks. They're all going to want this for sure.
Right. And also it's good in that if you happen to play like a Cairn Wanderer, or what's that guy that's like the Chromanticore kind of guy, the deck that steals everything out of the abilities out of your graveyard.
Yeah.
It's like Urborg, like Grave Goblet or something like that.
Scavengers. I think it's Urborg Scavengers or something like that.
This guy's great. You just want to put this guy in your graveyard, which is also great.
Yep.
Yeah,
get every ability.
There we go.
I love it so much. It's fantastic. It's also a gigantic bomb in Seal.
Oh, for sure.
I don't know if it can get there in draft or whatnot, and maybe constructed. I mean, hell, I can get to 7 mana in a ramp deck. We can do that. And this is a hell of a card to have to deal with. It's got everything. It's going to stop everything incoming. And again, just terrific. Let's move on here to PowrDragn's pick. What you got?
Well, this card previously had a version that was nuts, and we made a new version that's more nuts. So we have Koma, World Eater. 3 colorless, 2 green, 2 blue. So another 7 mana card. It's a big legendary creature that's a serpent, but it's an 8/12 for 7 mana, which is already a weird stat line. But it can't be countered, which is awesome. You love that when you're ramping with your big green things. It has trample. It has ward 4, which is already like a lot. And then whenever it deals damage to a player, you get 4 for some godforsaken reason. 3/3 blue serpent creatures that are Koma's Coil. There's a lot going on with this card for 7 mana, but dude, I'm here for it. Like, we can totally get this into play a bunch of different ways in Standard.
Sure.
Like, this thing's going to be a problem.
It's funny when you look at what we just spoke about with Eldrazi versus what you get here by paying 4 color pips. Because instead of a 7/7, you have an 8/12.
Yeah.
Ward 4 is like right here next to Hexproof. Like, it is damn near no one is able to target this thing. Because it's
really you got to usually spend at least 6 mana to kill it.
Yeah, it dies to a 6 mana Doomblade.
Right.
Yeah, love those words.
and it's not mythic, though. It is not mythic.
No, that was the other thing that surprised me. It's just a rare.
This guy's going to show up in draft, not terribly uncommonly.
this is going to win a lot of drafts for people because when you have trample and 8 power, you often connect, which means you're getting a pile of 3/3s.
This card is dope. I just love doing big, stupid, crazy things, and that's exactly what this card does.
Right.
So that's awesome. Reuben, what you got?
My card, I don't perceive will be like a tournament all-star. I don't think it's going to be a breakout card of the set. I like it just because of how clean it is, how simple it is. It's perfect for a rare. It's like great for a new player. It's an exciting card to build around, and it's also hilarious and adorable. And it's Homunculus Horde. Homunculus Horde is 3 generic and a blue for a 2/2 rare homunculus. When you draw your second card each turn, create a token that's a copy of this creature. That goes from 1 to 2 to 4 to 6, or to 8, I mean. And then goes on from there. So I love this guy. I think that this is a really clean design. Both artworks are super interesting and fun. Kind of gross, honestly. Kind of both homunculuses are a little terrifying. Hordes. But I guess anything that's a horde is a little terrifying.
You know, I'm into this, especially if you have a commander deck that cares about tokens entering or whatever. Because all you got to do is get it off once, and you're like, okay, here we go. Now it's just like piles of cards, and I'm triggering everything. Like, this is a fun little card. Again, I'm with you. I don't think it's going to be like a tournament staple or anything. But it's a type of card that if you don't deal with it, gets out of hand pretty quickly.
Yeah.
This is like just a super fun card, right? This is a wonderful example of a card that's not going to break anything. It's not going to hurt anybody's feelings. It's going to do something neat and unique. And like it's got some awesome flavor attached to it, really cool like creature type attached to it, and it just reads like super fun. I like how this card reads more than anything. I know.
Agreed.
I look at cards like this and think like I will be happy to lose to this at least once.
Yeah. Oh, they got a copy, and then the next turn, oh god, they got 2 copies of those copies, and you're like, well, you got me, but those homunculi are super cute, and I died to them, and that's okay.
Yeah, if it like pops off, I ain't gonna be mad. Like I'd love to lose to that.
And the laboratory notice does say to whoever left their homunculus experiment unattended, you will not be penalized if you come forward and tell us how to make it stop.
Yep.
I think that's fantastic.
There is one other thing I wanted to touch on. I don't know if we're going to touch on it later, or it doesn't look like we're going to touch on it later, which is a small little quality of life rules change update, where we are removing the order blockers step effectively from combat pretty soon. That will make defensively used combat tricks worse.
Right.
But it will remove a bunch of clicks from Arena and from Magic Online. It will make attacking better, and it will just smooth out the combat steps. So 95% of the time, it's not going to matter. And the 5% of the time where it does matter, it favors the attacker, which I'm always in favor of.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned that because weirdly, when I saw it, because I wasn't there when the announcement was made and I had somebody explain it to me later. And when I looked it up, I actually tried to explain to people, like, this is the way new players think it works.
Correct.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we know it's different because we play the intricacies of the game and we know all that. But, like, new players, the first time you're like, okay, cool. Now I'm going to go ahead and put a giant growth on this guy. It's like, oh, but then I would have done it different. Like, no, I get a chance to play a thing, you know. But they're just like, no, you blocked. We decided there was nothing. I assigned it like this, you know.
Yeah.
Now it works the way they think it works.
And right, so it creates less like feel bad, like gotcha moments because you didn't know.
Yeah.
And the other half is it does make those defensive, particular things that give like +X, +O, and first strike just a little bit worse because they were so blowouty and limited.
Yeah.
The 1 red mana +1/+O first strike, that's just Doomblade for 1 red mana most of the time.
Yeah.
And it was ridiculous. So maybe you can slow down that maybe a little bit. Obviously, there'll still be scenarios where they gain first strike, and that's still going to happen, and blah, blah, blah.
And again, the people that are doom and gloom, like, we literally heard you saying people when they took damage off the stack.
Right.
Game got more strategic, and nobody noticed it's gone.
I never missed damage on stack. I didn't miss mana burn. I didn't miss any of that stupid crap that we had to deal with back in the day. It was dumb, and I didn't like it.
By the way, there's still apparently a small portion of the community that desperately wants mana burn back, and that you people are weird.
Amazing.
Like,
live your truth.
Yeah, exactly. I don't understand.
I've lived that truth. It's not a good truth. It's not.
It's
not
just pointless. It
not a
almost never matters anyway.
There's a Jund legend that lets you live that truth if you really want it.
And that's what I said. Play the card that does it if you're worried about it.
There you go. See, just put it on a card. Let it be a weird card. It's fine. Now, in the Throne of the Drain set was a certain card called Fervent Champion. And on it was the face of Javier Dominguez as the 2018 World Champion. Well, sometime in the next year or two, we're going to see another face of Javier Dominguez on a Magic card because he just won Worlds, the 30th anniversary Worlds. Congratulations to them. He killed it. He crushed it.
Let's give further props to him, because if you don't follow regularly, the thing people don't know is he basically was in contention for top 8 for the last year and a half.
I don't think he's
going into the last couple of rounds.
They said something like he hasn't made worse than 10th.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. The dude's been in contention for a year. He has literally he's been top 8 or top 12.
Javier is a stone cold killer. I watched
insane.
Yeah, I watched the first match, which was Seth MacFarlane versus Kai Buddha, because I wanted to see that one, which was really cool and fun. And then
I mean Seth Manfield, but MacFarlane would be awesome.
Sorry, MacFarlane, lol. Seth Manfield, thank you. I was like, Seth M? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But in the finals, which was fantastic, because this is what I love about Pro Tours. When I can watch Magic and go, well, this is the obvious. They're going to do this, right? And then they don't do that, or they don't play it this way, or they do it in a different sequence. And later on, it's completely clear why they did that. And I'm like,
that's why we're sitting at home, dog.
I wasn't thinking that far ahead. There was a point at which he could have done something or activated something again. He didn't really need to. It was almost win more, but there was a reason he left that man up, because of something his opponent did. And I was like, oh my God, he's just so many steps ahead, and brilliant Magic player, clearly deserves it, and very excited to see him on a new card.
Yeah. I mean, 2-time world champion. He's got 11 top finishes between Pro Tours, Worlds, Mythic Championships, etc. Multiple Grand Prix wins on top of that. He's won a Nationals from his home country of Spain on top of that. I mean, he's getting into that argument of, is he the greatest of all time? Is he the greatest European player of all time? I think we're getting there with between him and Kai.
He's for sure in the top 10 category at this.
He's for sure in top 10. There's 10. An argument to be made that he's already top 5. I don't think he's there yet.
You got to be John, Kai,
John, Kai,
Hallow,
PV,
Gabriel,
Luis,
Nassif,
and Gabe
Nassif. Yeah,
but his resume is stout.
But it's tough to argue. And you look at the numbers and it's
go back and look, but I don't know if a player has had a run like this for basically 2 years straight.
It's a long time. Now they note that Ely Kassis is top 16 every Pro Tour and Worlds this year.
I love that.
Also fantastic.
That's incredible as well.
Also fantastic.
Ely's a killer, man. That guy is really good at Magic. Crazy good.
It's just unreal that some of these guys can be this good.
Yeah. And Ely, I also like that Ely exists just in the zeitgeist of my existence, because I knew him when I was not old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just saw Ely at GPs when I was in my early 20s. I met him on the SCG circuit, or got to know him on the SCG circuit. He's just a grinder, kind of unassuming if you're just talking to him. But he's just a killer. He just goes in, does his work, and then goes home, and he never misses a top 16.
Also, speaking of greatest ever, Kai apparently went on a small losing streak toward the end of the second day and had to win and end his last round to make the top 8 and got in.
That's
great.
Yeah. Let's talk about Kai again.
Do know that Javier Dominguez also won Player of the Year, a Kai Buddha Player of the Year.
The Kai Buddha Player of the Year.
Yes.
Yep.
I dislike that I didn't include that, but that's me.
Yeah. Kai versus Javier in the first round of the top 8 is just an all-timer. I couldn't possibly be a bigger fan of Kai. I think he's the greatest of all time. He's still my GOAT. And probably will always be, no matter what else anybody does.
Now, before we move out of here from Gather Townsfolk, people can read about Hasbro's financial results if they'd like. But PowrDragn, we got to talk about your unknown card in this event. How did that go?
So this is a funny story, because when I get to these events, I'm already in business mode. What do I got to do? Where do I got to be? Trying to plot out the day. And one of the first things I had to do that day was I was playing in an unknown event that Gavin wanted some folks to play in or whatever, because engagement with fans or whatever. And I opened my product and I'm sitting there and I'm just chatting with people about their local stores and doing the normal like PR thing. I didn't even realize what it was. Like I opened it up, I was like, oh, I'm playing some red cards. We'll see if I can cast this or whatever. When I actually get it into play, I think it was like the second match I played with it. The opponent looks over and kind of laughs and goes, oh, kind of like you or whatever. And I'm like, what? He's like, oh, like PowrDragn. It's a powerful dragon. And I was like, oh, yeah, maybe, I guess. Like I didn't even think about what was going on. My brain just wasn't there. And later on, I had to have somebody came over and told me like, oh, you opened one. I was going to come tell you about this thing. And I was like, well, that's pretty cool. So yeah, it's part of a project that they're trying. It sounds like they're trying to get several of the top influencers, shows, different things, a card represented in these either unknown events or unknown product or mystery product, I should say, mystery boosters.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of cool to be included in that bunch. I literally was not told on any level, like they just decide to do it. So it's kind of cool. And I got to sign a couple of them, which was kind of sweet that people had opened them and wanted to find me to sign them. So now I have to commission an artist or something to do some art on mine that I opened.
Yeah, it's called the Powerful Dragon. 2 red, 3 generic mana for a 3/5 legendary creature dragon with flying and mentor. When this creature attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature with lesser power. Whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put on a creature you control, exile the top card of your library until end of turn. You may play that card. So
yeah, mentor was a very nice touch. Like that was the part that mattered.
I love it.
Yep, that was super rad and very cool. And I did, just happened to drop the Captain Tickles design that I submitted to the Invitational so many years ago to Gavin, like a month and a half ago.
I think that
it there. Just
I don't know that I get a card, but I've been making content a while. I would take a card.
Yeah,
it's
the whole thing.
So, we'll see how it goes.
Right. Now, it's time for drama. Everybody loves drama.
Oh, you're not gonna like my opinion on this.
And the Desperate Ravings. There was some ravings that happened, and we saw it from Donato Giancola, who was a little upset. Not that I think there was anything more or less sort of actionable, like this wasn't like legal issues or whatever. It was more like they didn't like it, as for lack of a better explanation, quickly. But Donato Giancola's work for the Universes Beyond Marvel set, they had some issues with. They started, like, when your message begins with, "You should be ashamed, Wizards of the Coast." I mean, we're going somewhere.
Huh.
I'll let you finish like before I say anything.
Yeah, I'll try to succinctly, wrap this up. It's like 6 screenshots.
Yeah,
it's a whole bunch. I mean, let's also note that, remember the Trouble in Pairs had a whole thing.
Yeah.
That was, it was an infringement or whatever, and that wasn't Wizards' fault, but regardless. So yeah, it's just like a whole bunch of issues that are concerning with I don't know how to best kind of how do we succinctly explain this?
Here's the problem I had is like this feels like he was having a moment. Like he sat down and was like, I hate the industry. I hate situations. And I just got to put something on it, which is fine. Like you're welcome to do that. It's his social media feed. He wants to put it on Facebook. Fine. I don't have a problem with that. But I think a lot of people took away from that like there's something we're supposed to be mad at and something to be actionable. But every time I read it, it's like he's kind of just ranting about stuff. And there's really like, because even when I follow the discussions from the different Facebook groups who were following up on this, like there's like 10 different discussions happening because he's still mad about, like, he's like the Trouble in Pairs thing. But like, that's not on Wizards. That's on the artists. And they already squared up with him. Apparently he says they settled and he got some money for it and whatever. So I'm like, why is this being brought up in the rant? Like, I get it. Past history with Marvel. Like, because that's kind of where this originates. Right. He has some bad history with Marvel. Now they're working with Wizards. Wizards put together a style guide, which I'm likely, if I were guessing, was at the direction of Marvel because it's Marvel characters.
Right.
And they said, hey, we want these to look like 80s and 90s comic books. Here's the examples they put together. Wizards put them to artists to say, do this. One of those happens to be a piece that Donato Giancola did for Marvel however long ago.
Right. They did it for Marvel as an oil painting and conceptual themes of metal used by Wizards of Marvel without their permission for a style guide. And it's a style guide. They don't sell the style guide.
No, they're not being sold. That's a normal industry thing, whether it's right or wrong. That is a thing people do. The other thing, though, is we know Marvel contracts in the past have been crappy. There's a lot of stories about different things.
Right.
They probably, and this is the part that's like, you didn't really say whether they own the rights to the artwork or not. Right? Because if you're going to rant, if they do, I'm saying if Marvel owns it, then it makes sense to go like, yeah, we want it to look like this, and they gave it to Wizards to use.
Right.
So my problem with it all is like, is this just a rant to just be mad at the industry for how it treats artists? Which that's legit, if that's what it is.
Yeah,
but it's written in a way, and he posted it in a way that he wants us to be mad at these companies for something, and I don't know what the something is. Like, give me the thing I'm supposed to be mad at.
Well, I think part of it, for me is, they used a thing they didn't want them to use, right? That's kind of part there. The other half is, and I'm just reading between the lines here, and my knowledge of how different Universes Beyond products have been treated in the past. Oftentimes, artists are able to make prints of their own work to sell at shows.
Yeah.
My take is they can't do that for Universes Beyond projects. I don't know if that's 100%, but that's what I've been getting. And secondly, they can make their own playmats through Ultra Pro as long as they make them through Ultra Pro. Well, my guess is you can't do that for Universes Beyond products because that's not part of the agreement. Again, I have no idea if that's not what's happening or not. I'm just reading between the lines because they say things like 7 words on a contract, and I have things where artists are just saying like we can't make prints, which is a big part of their income depending on the artwork.
Yeah. And we'll do our due diligence on that, but that makes sense for now. I'll go with it until proven otherwise for this point.
Yeah. And that's kind of my thing. Like I just didn't know where the anger was, like where the problem was.
Now, right. The link to the Reddit thread is in the description of the video and the podcast if you want to go check it out. Again, it just felt like contractually there's money in there, compensation things are in there, people are not happy about.
I feel like I've seen some artwork from artists with the Universes Beyond stuff available, so I'm not sure what the details would be, but there is something because he does. But my thing too is if you didn't sign a contract, then there's no work being done, so no harm, no foul, right? Because he says I didn't like the language, they didn't want to change it, we didn't do business, and that's fine. Like that's a real thing. I've been parts of those, it's fine. But again, like I'm kind of trying to figure out like what are we mad at? Like let's get on board with you, let's support you, but you got to tell me what the problem is. And I don't feel like I got that from the ranting.
Yeah, it felt like they wanted to say things they like couldn't. No, you know what I'm saying? Like there was some specific. There was these 7 words in contract. I don't know what that means. But you can be mad about it, but I don't know what that means.
That's my problem. See, like at that point, and I've been in that spot. I've had some situations where I'm like, either professionally, I know this might cause problems if I put it out there or whatever.
Right.
So you just don't post it because then it gets weird. It
gets rough too. And again, when it's that long, you're like, a lot of people are just like, too long, didn't read, man. I'm sorry that happened, or I'm happy for you.
I read it 3 times because I'm like, I must have missed the part. Like there's something here. Obviously, there's a message that I'm missing. And maybe it's coded in there somewhere because he seems like a smart guy. Maybe he snuck it in there somewhere. I just missed it. But I don't know.
I don't know, man. Look, all I'm saying is, speaking of other drama, and this is something that's kind of a walk back a little bit from Sam. He posted something on, this is Rhystic Studies. Rhystic Studies posted on Substack about, your foundation is rotten, and talked about Magic's relentless crossovers and how that, that kind of hurt his faith on that stuff. And later he was like, I was a little harsh. He got it off his chest. He apologized for being that harsh, but Magic still rules, which it does.
Yeah, but it's emotional.
It is, and it's tough because when you start to see so much of other IPs entering Magic, I understand that, like, hey, this is our stuff, right? This is our stories. You can't come in my house and take over my stories.
And I want to clarify, he didn't walk it back. He just apologized for that he was so harsh about it. He was like, oh no, I believe this. I just still love Magic, which, for the record, I also agree with, and I've
totally
talked about at length on this episode. It's just like, like
Fair
Sam
point.
said, that sponge effing broke me. It didn't break me. For me, it was, a long time ago, but we're here now. I get it. I get that we're Fortnite. I'll live.
Look, man, I dug my heels into the sand when The Walking Dead showed up. And I had many conversations with Wizards people, privately, and I was just like, this is, this is a tipping point, good, bad, or ugly, and you can't just let these be one time, one printing, unique cards that we'll never ever see again. This was before they even said Universes Within was the thing. That's what I was always afraid of, was they're going to make these like basically reserve list cards over and over again until they made another giant reserve list that we can't do anything about. So having that like shored up over the next year or so, I think was a big deal and helped a lot, and I think smoothed over a lot of this stuff. But I also recognize of just like, damn, when you also think of other games, like Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't have other properties in it. Pokemon doesn't have other properties in it, right? And that's where, and I understand those comparisons, right? Those IPs are strong enough by themselves that they don't need other things to come in to show it.
Those IPs are also selling other things, right? They're derivatives of video games and other stuff already. So they're almost the ancillary product to another thing more than the product themselves.
Does Yu-Gi-Oh! Even have an anime that still runs?
That I don't even know.
I'm not sure it does. Like, I mean,
but they had the anime and they had video games.
They do. They still do.
Yeah.
Still have video games, which is cool. I just, it's one of those things where I recognize that, again, this is a lot of people are very concerned now, and they're like, wait a minute, this is a lot of Universes Beyond, and I'm like, well, all right.
Yeah,
it's been okay, and it works, and it brings in new players. And Wizards, if nothing else, to make Magic not die, the thing that will make Magic die is to have no new players.
Right.
And if this thing is getting into the most new players they've ever seen, we want to stop that? Like, that doesn't compute for me.
I'm gonna tell a story from something that happened at Vegas, right? There was a guy that he was a judge years ago, like stepped away from the game, been busy with life, whatever. From what I understand, he showed up in Amsterdam and kind of just came to MagicCon, and he asked the Pro Tour folks and whatever, like, hey, can I come back to judging? Can I do a thing? And they're like, hey, let's get you back into the circle of things and let you get back in practice, and we'll have you judge some of the stuff at MagicCon Vegas before hopping back into the Pro Tour. Did it, had a good time. And then they asked him, okay, how'd you feel about it? What was going on? Do you have any feedback? One of the funniest things he said is the players are so much nicer now.
Huh.
He says, I made a ruling and both people thanked me. Like, nobody yelled at me. There wasn't like this big to do about it. And he says, man, things just have changed.
Okay.
And he's right. Like, if you walk around a MagicCon, there's a bunch of people just happy to be there.
Yeah.
They're just sitting down playing cards. Some of them playing with some of their Universes Beyond stuff. Some of them just playing with Magic stuff.
All right.
At the end of the day, nobody cares. They just don't. 16,000 people were enjoying a nice show. Like, that's kind of what it is. Whether we like it or not, this is where we are, and people are having a good time with it.
Well, I like that. So I can get over my wistfulness of some halcyon day that may or may not have ever existed, and some rose-colored glasses of what Magic may or may not have been like 20 years ago. If everybody's nice, I can get over myself.
Yeah, I'm curious, I guess, at this point, how many active Magic players, have ever read a Magic novel?
Right.
Oh, like, it's gotta, like, even when the community was less, I would have said 10%. Sure. So now it's probably 3%, 2%.
10% sounds aggressive. Even back.
No, I'm saying 10 is a high number.
Back in the day, maybe 10. Now,
maybe,
because remember they used to have them in the
fat packs. Yeah.
So, and I read I actually read the Champions of Kamigawa one for the history episode I did on that. So,
so more might have gotten read then, but now it's got to be just a couple of percentage points tops.
Yep.
Tops.
I mean, well, let's go ahead and quickly touch on Going Infinite here before we turn the corner, because I did want to note this, because I think this was pretty interesting. Basically, the Arena team said that, like, they're not really thinking much about Modern right now, getting Modern onto Arena, and that's totally fine. Certainly with Pioneer Masters, and they're literally going to rename Explorer to Pioneer when that set comes out, which is also awesome. But someone said, so what's the next big project for the Arena team? And they said more than 2 players.
Sure.
I feel like they announced that or said something about that beginning of the year. So we sort of knew that was a thing.
I think they might have said that last year.
Maybe. Either way, we knew it was a thing.
We knew it was a thing, but it's also interesting to say, like, hey, we are, like, they just went out and be like, our team is working on this. We want to have more than 2 players in Arena. I would still love them to see them do that. And if they can pull it off, even if it's not the slickest, you know what I mean? Like, they can improve it over time, but to just get it out there, right? To just get version 1.0 and it works, and you can do things and target things the right way, and it just happens and it works. I think that's going to be a huge, huge breakthrough.
Yeah, for sure.
Very excited about that. So let's go ahead.
It'll change content for sure. I'll tell you that.
Yes.
Oh, Lord. So much will change when that happens. And honestly, if they can get it done by the end of next year, I would be very impressed. Because these things have to go through so much testing and so many iterations. And just think about, they come up with this solution for more than 2 players now. There are a whole year of sets coming that have to also work with this multiple player set. So that's a whole thing.
I still feel like it's going to be accompanying like Arena 2.0, whatever the update is. So our Battlefield UI, whatever, accommodates multiple players.
It's tough. It's hard to say. But we're going to turn the corner here to the finisher. Tomorrow is All Hallows Eve. It is spooky season, y'all. And while Mariah Carey may be defrosting just around the corner, because she is, it's still October, damn it. So tell me, what are your scariest Magic costume ideas, Reuben?
Well, I'll be dressing not in this fancy, jaunty hat that I wear, but instead the scariest character in all of Magic this Halloween, J.D. Vance. Especially since his favorite card on record is Yawgmoth's Bargain. Now, I love a deal with the devil as much as the next guy, but that's the wrong job for someone who likes using their life total as a resource.
Yeah.
On the nose. Wasn't it just a little?
Yeah, it's a little on the nose.
Mr. PowrDragn?
Yeah, so I'm going to have to get a wig and some eye contacts because I'm going to be dressing up as the most evil character in Magic. We're not talking about Emrakul, not Nicol Bolas, not even Yawgmoth, who's pretty effed up, by the way. We're talking about the real worst, Urza.
Yeah.
Because that dude's bad.
Actual war criminal Urza. Yeah.
He caused a whole ice age.
Oh, he killed a bunch of people. Was into like eugenics. Like the dude's just a mess.
It was pretty gross. Now look, I'll be putting on my best 3-piece power suit, trying on my best Microsoft Silicon Valley smile, and going as the scariest villain in the history of Magic, the Power Creep.
Ooh, terrifying.
That'd be a good one.
Yeah, nobody will guess it either. They're like, what are you doing?
Right.
You don't know. I'm just in the background doing my thing. And that ends another live episode of Magic Mics. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, PowrDragn.
Hey, we survived another week, and this was a long show, so I hope everybody enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you, Reuben.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We have some stuff happening between now and our next show. First of all, happy Halloween. I hope you all stay safe and have a good time. And second, vote.
Vote.
Get out there and vote.
Yeah,
it's those Americans that have voting next Tuesday.
You should already have voted, but if you
should have already voted, but if you've not, you better vote.
Go get it taken care of.
A lot of us have already voted, of course.
Please. I voted, and it was fun. All right. That said, I want to move on here to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com. Use the promo code MagicMics to save 5% off there. Our co-sponsor, ManaTraders, my co-host, PowrDragn, and Reuben Bressler. You guys for watching and listening, and hope you support us at patreon.com/MagicMics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us on our exclusive member Discord, live on twitch.tv at MagicMics, live or taped on our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter at MagicMicsCast, on TikTok at MagicMicsCast, or follow us on Blue Sky at magicmics.bsky.social, or join us here next week. Same time, same place for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.